Right, um, power supplies. This is fun. This is a piece of the puzzle in my current system that I haven't got round to addressing yet. So I've just recovered some bits and pieces from the other house, and that's what I'm going to put in there. So we're going to have a quick look, and so I'll give you sort of a description of what I've got and why I've got it, and what I'm hoping to achieve with it as well. So I'm going to flip you around, and we'll start here. We'll start with the power cords. So these are from a company called Supra. I think they're Swedish. They've got a lot of gear, a lot of well, they're basically lots and lots of cables. That's what they do. I think they're rather proudly supply cables to the medical industry. I would say if it's good enough for them, it's good enough for me, bearing in mind what I've got to work with. So, just looking briefly, so that, let's zoom in quickly. That Lin 2200 is about 8,000 Kiwi dollars worth. The DAC is about 3,000 Kiwi dollars worth, and the Blue Sound Volts is about the same. I think it's $2,500 worth. So it gives you a sort of a rough idea of the cost of the equipment, and then so what I'm putting into that, what I'm spending on the cables. So I think these. So this is so just looking at what it is that I've gone for. I've gone for the heaviest gauge cord. Well, heaviest reasonable gauge cord. They're good quality copper, they're silver plated, and they're shielded. And they've got the IECs on them are really nice as well, and they're really solid inside as well, the way they're connected. And I think these are silver plated. Certainly these ends are as well, and you'll spot that I've got the other end of the IEC in there, and I'll explain that in a second. So that's what I'm working with. They're reasonably long. They're about 1.5 meters long or something. I used to cut all of my cables. I hate a mess behind a stereo. It really irritates me, and I really try to keep things as tidy as I can. And as far as my interconnects are concerned, they're all only as long as they need to be, and there's no disadvantage to that. In fact, the shorter the interconnect, the better. So that's good. As far as power cables are concerned, part of the property of the power cable is that it's actually protecting, through its length, it is protecting the rest of your equipment. So you've basically got something that's plugged into, a device that's plugged into, and the length of the cable and the properties of the cable is protecting the rest of it. Basically, you've got noise, you've got dirty noise, you've got power coming in, and whatever comes back out from your device has the potential to contaminate everything else. So the length of the cord is important, and I think they basically say about 1 meter long is about right. Now that's what I do. I don't cut them too short anymore. You can see this is pretty heavy gauge, but it's also actually quite flexible as well, which I quite like, I must say. I've had very unflexible cables before. I've had some old school wire weld ones which were pretty difficult to wrestle, and you find that you're really struggling to keep the sockets in place and where they're supposed to be when they're so stiff. In fact, actually, you'll see on another device, and I'll talk to you about this in a second, but I've actually taped the sockets down to make sure that they don't go wandering. So that's those. So nothing terribly flash going on here. I think this cable, inclusive of the silver-plated connectors, is somewhere in the region of 200 or 300 Kiwi dollars or thereabouts. So not huge amounts, but not immaterial either, and certainly it stacks up. You can see down there from the remainder of the other system, there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 6 other cables there. So it stacks up pretty quick, and you end up paying quite a lot of money. So this is really where I'm at the moment. I think that for the caliber of the system, this is about as much as I want to reasonably pay. And the sky's the limit. There's some stuff out there that's pretty eye-wateringly expensive. This is the figure 8 chord for the Bluesound, and you'll see that I've actually put a wee nick in there to identify the live side there. What I haven't yet done is opened up the Bluesound, still under warranty, so I probably shouldn't, to find out. It doesn't actually indicate which is the live and which is the neutral, and that irritates me because for everything else, I'm always very studious about making sure it's correct, and it can make a difference to the sound that you're creating. If you've got two devices that are inverted from each other, out of phase, then it can behave very much like out of phase speakers. So if this, if you're left and right are out of phase, then you're killing noise basically. So that's a little project there. Then the power distribution box. So this is ART PB4 4x4. This is a really simple box. Actually, it doesn't need to be anywhere near this big. Inside there, so you've got the protection breaker there, you've got an on switch, and in here there's just a big long butty rail that connects all of the feeds together, and you'll see that it's actually the IEC sockets. And I quite like it because it just makes it tidy. You haven't got a whole bunch of big cords, big plugs in the back of that you've got to try and wrestle with. So I really like that. It does have some mild filtering in it. So what have you got? We've got the power in here. The first two sockets are unfiltered, and then you get progressive filtering. It's pretty mild, but progressive filtering all the way up. I think they basically go in pairs. So the power amp will go in the unfiltered socket. So we want as best power as possible, as unfiltered power as possible for the power amp, and then going all the way up here. So I might put the Bluesound up the top here, and we'll see what happens with the DAC. The DAC I'm using as a preamp, so it might actually end up next door to the power amp. So that's that. It's a really simple. Basically, it's a sort of an audio ready power bank, and like I said, I know that the filtering in here is mild. It's not heavy, and there's really nothing much else to it. There's nothing much going on. This is an interesting device. So this is also from Supra, and it is a DC blocker, and so it's going to help me. It's basically going to remove any DC signal that's coming out of the wall outlet. And where this little apartment is, this little apartment is pretty much in the middle of an industrial area. There's all sorts of industry going on here. If you go outside now, you'll hear all sorts of cooling fans, heating fans, who knows what. It's all going on out there. So I'm right in the middle of it. So it'll be interesting to see what difference that makes. So it's quite possible that there is now some DC signal in the sine wave that's supposed to be coming out of the outlet. I've had good results with that before. It's when you add it in, you get a really black background, which is great. So I'm going to do that again. Put it in again with the rest of this gear. Yeah, that's about the sum of it. So it's simple. I haven't spent an absolute fortune on it, but I've spent a little bit, and I've certainly benefited from that. It's hard to quantify and it's hard to really explain, but I think blackness, a black background and a full frequency range is something definitely to be benefited from. And yeah, just a little bit of extra weight really. It just feels like you've got, you know, a system that has a little bit of punch behind it. So that's my little this evening project. Just plumb all this in and switch her on and enjoy it. And really just the last comment there is I do believe in spending good money on cables and on all your cables. You don't have to have really high-end expensive equipment, but as soon as you start adding something a little bit better for your power, and my goodness, power, you know, it is all about power. An amplifier, all it does is take what's coming out the wall and give it a signal and ramp it up. That's all it does. So you know, to get the most out of that, to get the best out of that, and yeah, no, that's it. That's all I'm going to go with. All right, cheers.